So that being said, okay, let's say someone is a little hesitant on putting money in the markets, but I guess we go back and say, okay, prior to an election, is there an asset class that tends to do better? Is there an asset class that tends to suffer? And I don't really have any good data on that. I think that as long as you have a strategy that you're going to put forward for the next 10 years, it really shouldn't matter whether or not we're in an election year or not, whether or not you're going to invest money or not invest money.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you have to set up a systematic method in which you're actually going to position your profits, to build assets, to create cash flow. And that should be the central point of your investment thesis, or how you're going to invest money over the next 10 years. It's not for what am I going to make in the next 3 months or 5 months or 10 months.
Exactly. We're looking at the long term here. And I want to, to go back to what you said about different asset classes under different presidents. There is some difference there. If you look under Democratic presidents, the areas that tend to boom are the areas where they put their money, which is, stuff like biotech,
Mm-hmm.
The medical industry. Those kinds of stocks do better under Democrats than Republicans. However, if you want to look at the flip side, under Republicans, gas and oil tends to do better. Manufacturing stocks tend to perform better than under Democrats.
Yeah.
So why? That's where they put their money,
Yeah.
So there's always going to be winners and losers, or winners and smaller winners, I guess, because it grows over the long run. But at the end of the day, there's still winners everywhere.
I think that the biggest thing is that people just have to understand, where is the money flowing? That is where you're going to see an increase in asset prices. Where's the money actually going? And so it's one of these things that people are freaking out because they can't figure out why the markets, even amidst all the bad news out there, why they still continue to go up.
Yeah.
For all the reasons why they say, okay, well, we have pending wars, we have high interest rates, we have, I don't know, name the 17,000 other things that are going on right now.
Here, and this is what I tell clients. And a lot of times when I say this, it really hits them hard, because they're like, oh, yeah, you are right. The world is no crazier than it's always been. Mm-hmm. There's always been wars. There's always been political divide. There's always been protests. There's always been sickness. None of this is new. None of it is worse than it's ever been. The only difference nowadays is we all have this thing in our pocket with endless algorithms feeding us whatever echo chamber we want. So if we want to believe the world is the worst it's ever been, we're going to believe that, because the algorithms are just going to feed us that day after day, week after week. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy nowadays.
That doesn't mean that there's not really evil things going on out there. That doesn't mean that there's groups or entities that are trying to do bad things. That doesn't mean that, that there aren't real threats to any of the systems that have been set up, or that there couldn't be, some kind of an event that creates enough chaos where people, do lose value and do lose money, and asset prices do go down, and the stock market does go down. And it doesn't mean that there's not things out there that could cause that. No,
there certainly are, but there's always been, and there always will be.
I think your point is that has always been consistent. That's always been there in some form or fashion.
Think about, if you want to talk about war, Vietnam War, Iraq War, Gulf Coast War, there's endless wars that have happened over the last 50 years, and there's small ongoing wars today, and there'll be wars 20 years from now. It's human. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't, but it is.
So I think your point of view then is you can't let this noise disrupt you from your investment strategy.
No.
And it's likely that, and again, when you start coming up with an investment strategy, you got to make an apolitical investment strategy. Right? Yeah. You have to make something that's going to be able to withstand any kind of scenario that we are faced with. Really.
Yep.
Now I see a lot of, people out there, at the macro level that think that they can, they love to say, okay, this is likely going to happen, predict something's going to happen in the next 10 years. And, some people may be right. Like I hear a lot of people say, well, you got to invest in nothing but real estate right now because it's just rents are going to do nothing but go up.
Yep.
Okay. So that's great. But how real is that for a practice owner to put all of his money in an area that he doesn't really know much about, or is going to be operating with, or is going to have to take the risk of self-management and leverage and all that?
Yep.
I think it's irresponsible to just say that's the only place that you can put money. Okay. And the same thing with the other people that just say, okay, the dollar's going to die. We're going to have a new currency, whatever that's going to be, some kind of a digital currency or central bank digital currency. And that 100% could happen. Okay. We've had resets in currencies before.
Yeah.
The last one was in, I think was the year I was born in 72. Okay. It's been 50 years. And is it likely that our current financial system is broken? Probably. All right. But what does that mean? Does that mean that you take every bit of money that you have right now and you bet that's going to happen and try to put it in some place that's, number one, if you can find that place and you have the highest probability that's the only place that's actually going to retain its value, then you're better than me. Or
it just goes back to the old tenet of diversification.
Yeah. And when you say diversification again, I think that, when I look at most business owners, at least that we consult, that they're not diversified when it comes to their ownership and their business real estate. That comprises about 70% of their household portfolio.
Yeah, it comprises 70%, but they spend 90% of their time worrying about the stock market
20% of their portfolio
collapsing if so-and-so wins election.
Yeah. So it's not something that I think an owner, a business owner should put his attention on. He needs to put his attention on, how do I get my business, my practice to a position where I am the premier practice in my community.
Yeah.
Because that's the best protection that you have. If you deliver a great service and everyone in the community knows that's the best protection that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
From an economic standpoint,
Yeah,